Triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Battle for freedom. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Watson Prudier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio, and I appreciate every last one of you as we try and do something on today, talking about all the things that are crazy in the world, that it keeps us crazy, driving us up the wall. And I'm not going to lie to you, the news is driving me crazy, but I serve a great God that no matter what's going on, all things are good in the neighborhood. My website is battleforfreedom.com. I want you to share it out with as many people as you possibly can. I also want you to go to mojo50.com, share it out with as many people as you possibly can, because of the fact that this is how we get this wonderful network out to as many people as we can. And by doing so, we let the world be free. Different opinions. But what we do is we share it with as many people as we possibly can to glorify God in all things. And the reason why we share this is because of the fact that it's important for everyone to be able to share what's on their mind and go from there. Listen, one of our sponsors is New Life Holistic. I want to share a video of them, or a little sponsor read for you. Just enjoy this and we'll go from there in a second. I don't know what you've been going through, but I'm certain that you're tired of the useless systems you've been wasting on money for therapy. Contact New Life Holistics by going to newlifeholistics.com right now. Give them the code Mojo50 and save $50 on your first session. Biofeedback may be the one solution that can help. Try New Life Holistics today. Recover in many ways, and not just from the perspective of biofeedback therapy, but he'll also help you with respect to just things on the spiritual side, things on the physical side, with health-wise, just regular health, walking, fasting, intermittent fasting, just ways to help your body stay best as possible and not worry about being stressed out with what's going on in the world, but that you can endure in all things. So reach out to New Life Holistics, go to newlifeholistics.com, give them the code Mojo50, and you can save $50 on your visit, or on your first session, if you can just reach out and do that. Another one I want you to consider and looking into is our sponsor. Another sponsor is American Pride Roasters Coffee. They went through a couple of challenges earlier this week with tornadoes and everything like that, so keep them lifted up in your prayers. We really appreciate them. Historically great coffee, American Pride Roasters Coffee. We love them. We appreciate the whole crew, everyone who's out there. We're praying for you, and you can't go wrong. We love American Pride Roasters Coffee because it's the official coffee of Mojo Fiber Radio. Honestly, if you want to learn a little bit about what's the status, I believe it was either yesterday or it might be today on the Daily Mojo, the owner of American Pride Roasters Coffee will be giving everybody an update as to what's going on out there with that company. So if you want to support them, if you want to learn a little bit more about them, what's going on, go check out the Daily Mojo today, and you will really enjoy it. Again, for all schedules, go to mojo50.com/schedule to find out all the different shows and what times that they are airing. So as we sit here and we just talk about the whole idea of mandates and sanctions, the currency of dictators, there's a lot of different things I want to share with you and for me. And if you want to interact, you can go to facebook.com/battle for freedom. I see Lisa, Kathy that are there, and they're leaving comments. I appreciate you being there. We see this. We're going to talk about this issue of mandates and sanctions. And someone was saying this, and I don't know if I was listening to one of the other shows that were talking about this the other day, but hey, Curtis, thank you for being part of the program. It made me think about, the mandates and the sanctions, the laws, or just the verbal laws that are written down that penalize people, or penalize is a target area, but the people who always suffer are the people. The people who the ones who suffer the most are the people. We had lockdowns, we had mandates, we had unwritten laws. They just had phrases that were created into law
Um, and it's really sad. Curtis says, pray for the president. He is being abused. I agree. We need to be praying for for President Joe Biden. As much as we may not agree with him, folks, you have to understand he's being manipulated. He's being manipulated. He's being manipulated. And we need to be praying for him because what's taking place right now is not good. But you know what? We've come to a point to mandates and everything like that, it's not just the people on the high end who are the tyrants. I'm going to show you how the tyranny reigns in all aspects of our lives, of our communities, you name it, it's there. That we have rules, but at the click of a button, at the click of a key or click of a mouse, a press of a keypad, those standards can change. Those standards can change. And it's just really interesting how it's controlled. Those of you who are driving or you're listening to the podcast, I have an image I usually try and make of my broadcast of what's driving me on my thought process. And I have these rules that are right across the top. Looks like they could be Scrabble letters, but superimposed on the top is the command key that you have on an Apple keyboard. And it's just the idea that if I just press the button, I could change a command or I can issue a command. And at the change of a button, at the press of a button, at the press of a key, at the tweet or the post of whatever organization it is, we can change things, sadly, and it not be about the truth. So there are a couple things that I want to share with you, but I don't know how many of you watch JP Awaken. He's like a physical manifestation of the Babylon Bee. And sometimes he has some really powerful things that he shares that just always rival the mind. And one of the things that for me is when I sit here talking about the currency of dictators and what we have here is mandates and sanctions, is the idea that we just make up stuff. It doesn't have to be true. We're going to inundate people with so much, and you just have to believe us. I want to play something that he did. This is a 7-minute video. I'm going to pause and stop in the middle of this. But as you hear this, and I will share the stories I want to talk about with the news, I think you'll understand why we're at where we are today. Kathy says many times I want to control alt delete. Yeah. Before Windows XP, I think that was okay because it actually did reboot your computer. Whereas now I think it was before Windows 95, it would reboot your computer without asking for a prompt. It just rebooted your computer. So we need to almost go back to the Windows 3.11 days. Because I can't remember if it was 95 or 98 or XP, which was the first version that basically prompted you if you really wanted to restart and gave you the options. But I think that sometimes I feel like a Control-Alt-Delete would work as well too, especially as we look at the science of life. Let's take a listen to this. This is what science class in 2022 is like, what your kids are learning.
Welcome to science class. Today we're going to learn the science of where babies come from. Now, back in primitive civilization, when we thought the earth was round, it was believed that only women had babies. But now through modern advancements in human civilization, we know the earth is flat and that babies come from men. With all these men having babies, we're going to have to get men into having abortions soon because they're just populating the planet too much. And a man's right to choose has been oppressed by misogynistic women making everything about their right to choose. Now here's how it works.
So... As you can understand, this is going to be, he is parroting, or it's a parody of the insanity that's going on. No way in any way are we sitting here saying that this is scientific fact, but we are letting you know and trying to help you understand the disposition of where we are today. And this is actually what's going on in schools, where the teachers are no longer actually sharing instruction of how to think. They're sharing commands of what to think rather than how to think. Kids today are now seeing that even their teachers are functioning as dictators when they override the will of the children and still push their plan, their way, even though they're not following the democracy that they always promote.
Man and a woman, or a man and another man come together, they make a baby. Isn't it that you need both a man and a woman to have a baby? Because men have the sperm that then fertilizes the woman's egg? No. That's just medical misinformation being spread by Joe Rogan. You see, it's just like the
medical misinformation. That is the term of tyrants. That's the term of dictator. That is the currency of dictators, and that you see that in the cancer culture, that you have to find some political figure or some conservative figure who has been painted as a form of evil, as a form of racism, and we use them as the barometer for dissension, or just for a condescending opinion against the will of the people and the minds of those who are just asking simple questions. JP Awaken is brilliant in how he plays this out.
The only way to make water is to combine 2 hydrogen molecules with 1 oxygen molecule. But let's say you don't have any hydrogen molecules. Can you still make water? No. Incorrect! Even if you don't have any hydrogen, a vital component of water, you can still make water with only oxygen if you want it to be water. Because science. But wouldn't that just be air? No!
So as we go through a lot of the different things and we start asking questions, we start asking questions. That's not, no. Just listen to our science. Just listen to the science. Listen, we're the teachers. We have the degrees. You don't. You're the dummy. You didn't go to the, yeah. Curtis says, I can make methane. There's a lot of us making methane. And it comes more frequent with age. But as we sit here, and again, we're being told this is science, okay? This is science. This is what our science classes look like. This is JP Awaken has done a great job to show us what the last 2 years of, I forgot, with everybody freaking out about the gas crisis and everything that's taking place. I saw this yesterday, and oh my goodness, I had to share this because this was just gold. It was gold, Jerry. It was just gold. I saw this yesterday. There was no way I could not share this. It's on my public timeline, but I'm going to share it right now. If everyone just doesn't drive for 2 weeks, we can flatten the curve. Because everybody's worried about high gas prices. Well, then, you know what? If we just don't drive for 2 weeks, how about we just don't shop for 2 weeks? And we can flatten the curve of inflation. Because it's the science. Okay, I'm a little bit off track. Let's go back to this.
It's water! Why are you being water phobic, you little misogynistic brat? But it doesn't make sense. It's not actually water. Oh, well, you know what would make sense? How about I go on Twitter and cancel you to help you understand the science? Do you think that would help? And that is part of the scientific method. Now, a person can't get...
And that's part of the scientific method. If you don't accept what I want you to believe, I'm going to cancel you. If you don't accept what I'm sharing with you, I'm going to cancel you. And this is just really, it's sad. It's sad that we're getting here, but you'll find out that, again, that for those of us now, I believe, this is my opinion alone, I think there's a great number of teachers who really care. And I'm appreciative for the teachers who really care, who follow through on the task that was given to them when they first dawned that desire to get an education, learn about teaching and instruction. But and all of us along the way get misled. All of us along the way can go off track, and come up with with just a really messed up opinion. Kathy, his name is JP Awaken. You'll see. At the break, I'll post it in the timeline so you can find it. But look up JP Awaken on YouTube and just enjoy. You're welcome. Oh, here we go. Let's get here some more.
And until they begin menstruating, which clearly men do. It's called getting your period. Most boys begin menstruating between the ages of 10 and 13. And when they do, I'm 15 and I haven't got my period yet. Is there something wrong with me? Oh, wow. Probably. You might have some kind of reproductive disorder or something. You'll probably...
Oh my goodness. This, again, for those of us who didn't want to follow the science, we had an intellectual deficiency or disorder. For those of us who didn't want to follow the science, we had major issues with us. Remember, we were incest-bred Neanderthals who just learned fire. Remember, the tyrants, the dictators, they make you feel less than important. This is actually the modus operandi, honestly, of what happens in domestic violence. In domestic violence, the abuser makes the abusee feel like their opinions don't matter. They start off with the verbal abuse. Then they move to the physical abuse. We saw that in the last 2 years. You will follow our mandates. If not, we will imprison you. We will detain you. We will cancel you. And then we'll do things to you against your will, whether you like it or not, because we're smarter and we're better. Oh, the best is yet to come. Yes, let's continue.
Have your gynecologist check you out. But when your period does come, blood and stuff will come from this general area, specifically your uterus, which for men is also the same thing as your small intestine. From there, shedding your uterine lining causes blood to leak out. Where's the blood leak out of? Yeah, right. It comes right out of the man's vagina, right between his scrotum and his anus. I don't even think I have a vagina down there. How am I ever going to get my period? Well, do you ever get bloody noses? Well, sometimes if I'm playing football or wrestling and I get hit in the face. Well, there you go. Yours just comes out of your nose. That's
See, and as you sit here and you listen to the distortions of truth here, what's really sad is you continue to struggle with the reality that they're not making sense. So, Amy, thank you for joining. We're talking about mandates and sanctions, the currency of dictators, and I'm playing a video from a person named JP Awaken or Awaken JP. He is the corporeal version of the Babylon Bee, and he just has great videos just talking about the insanity of science. And so here he is explaining how men have babies in science class in 2022.
Period. Now, to keep from getting period blood everywhere, you'll want to wear a maxi pad.
Yes, so it's a mask. He'll use it. He put a
For
mask
boys having trouble getting their
over his
period
face.
for whatever reason, you can eat a bunch of beets and then look in the toilet after you poop. That's also your period. I heard my dad listening to Dr. Robert.
Oh my goodness. I almost spit up my drink on that one. Yeah, let's have some beets, because if we can find something that almost yields the result that we're looking for, that's the science. Yes, so when, again, a report comes out that most of the testing kits that were created to test for COVID, so allegedly, there was no framework or reference in the preparation of the early kits to test for COVID. The kits were created to test for the flu. So when we sat there and we looked at the COVID symptoms that were very familiar to the flu symptoms, and the kits were testing for the flu rather than COVID. I believe this is what has been reported in the news. I'm not making the factual statement. I'm just saying what I saw on the news. So we're supposed to follow the science, but the science isn't following the science. But let's get back to Awaken. It's Awaken with JP.
Discussing science on a podcast, and he said with a jab, you need to be... Stop it! Stop it right now! Don't you ever interrupt science class again with medical misinformation while I'm teaching about how men get pregnant. I don't think men can get pregnant. I mean, I'll have my dad come in and talk to you about it. So your dad's a domestic terrorist. If he steps foot near the school, I'll have him arrested. Now,
because of the fact that when our science and our science, I have to put that in quotes, is challenged, there's a form of terrorism to thought. There's a terrorism to intelligence. There's a terrorism to an ability to move humanity forward in the name of progress and innovation, even though the science hasn't been proved. Like evolution hasn't been proved. No missing link found. No, nothing. Just postulations. Just postulations and flatulations. If you want to talk about real gas, methane, like what was mentioned earlier, and hey, Lep, thank you for joining. Catch him on Rock'em Sock'em and Ain't You a Peach. Again, you won't know this until you go to mojo50.com/schedule. But this is where we are. I'm going to cancel you. I'll arrest you. Don't you dare speak that medical misinformation.
the vast majority of scientific discoveries during the last century have been made by Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, and Stephen Hawking, but mostly CNN. Next, we're going to cover what's called natural immunity. It does not exist. Any questions before we move on? A collaboration and discussion around scientific theories.
Yes. So it's the idea is like it doesn't exist. So we're gonna shut down the conversation before it even ever begins. This is the currency of dictators. Mandates, sanctions. I'm gonna mandate what we'll talk about in my class. I will direct what will happen in my class. I don't care what other opinions are. You listen to me and you do what I say. Your opinion doesn't. Yeah, Kathy says on the test, I think it shows positive if you have the flu, cold, strep, etc. Bingo. So what we're going to do is we're going to return with Awaken with JP and so much more as we talk about mandates and sanctions. The currency of dictators. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 5 Radio. I appreciate every last one of you. Let's go to a break, and I'll talk to you on the flip side.
A reading from John 1, verses 1 through 18. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of only the Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This is he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me." For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God, who is at the Father's side. He has made him known. Thank you, Jesus Christ.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 5 Radio, and I really appreciate every last one of you for joining and being part of the program as we have fun. Oh, we have fun here with Awaken with JP as we sit here laughing about this. Curtis says, make sure you kiss the Blarney Stone. Yeah, because that always works. That always works. He's sitting here talking about mandates and sanctions, the currency of dictators. It just makes me think about, just following the science. And, with everything going on and high gas and everything like that, again, I don't take credit on this one because there are other brilliant people who come up with this stuff before me, but there are some memes that just have to be shared. Here you go. This is one. Domestic oil, the new ivermectin. Domestic oil, the new ivermectin, because that is nothing but a right-wing conspiracy talking point to talk about domestic oil. Even though there's tons and tons of reserves of oil under the United States of America, but we're going to still go to other countries to get it because we're going to protect our environment and let them ruin theirs. Hey, yeah, everything made in China and India. Let's put the smog there instead of putting the smog here. We'll put the factories there so their people can walk around with masks to protect them from those particulates of gases and everything like that from the fumes from their factories. But you know what? We're good. We're good ecologists here. Don't drill on our land. Don't drill. No, let's not. By not drilling on American soil, we're saving the earth. But drilling in Venezuela, drilling in Ukraine, Russia, and Saudi Arabia, yeah, it's science. Let's get back to JP.
Data is an important part of making scientific advancements. So when someone has an opposing theory, especially one backed by evidence and objective numbers, the scientific method requires you to hysterically scream at them, accusing them of being a science denier. And even
yes, you are a science denier, even though I have facts. Even though I'm giving you critical data that supports the position that, oh, wait, no. I can't have my data. Oh, because that data is being censored. It's very odd. So talking about censoring, I'll get back to JP in a second here. I'm going to go with one of my articles today. I saw this last night, and I'm not going to lie to you. This one is downright confusing, bemusing, baffling, and so much more. Facebook and Instagram will allow posts calling for Putin's death and violence against Russian soldiers and civilians in a temporary change to its hate speech policy. Yes, I'm putting the link in on the timeline if you're following on Facebook. Here you go. There is your link for this article on the Daily Mail. That it says that Facebook will drop their standards on hate speech because we're talking about evil Putin. We don't have standards anymore. Or we're going to temporarily move those standards. Kind of like the standards that were removed in the name of science. Or in the name of protecting people. So we're going to change the science to make the science work conveniently. If Facebook can drop hate speech standards temporarily for a hate of one man, what other standards would be dropped for the hate of another man? Oh, let's see. Let's consider the hate that they had for Donald Trump. Let's see the hate that they had for so many other different people. But this hate, this is permissible hate. You remember when I talked about the whole idea of hierarchical holiness? Well, we put levels, we can put levels of goodness on, and because they get to determine what that good level of holiness is. So when I sit here and I try and tell you right from wrong, this is not Watson's standard. It's not Watson's word. It's God's word that turns around and shows us the difference between right and wrong. Because if it's according to my rules will fluctuate and they will be bouncing and moving and inconsistent like the waves of a sea. No direct line or direct foundation. It'll toss and it'll move and just as it flows to my whims. And now Facebook is doing the same thing. Hey, Jamie, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining Christopher. Christopher says, you could fool all of the people some of the time. You could fool some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Attributed to Abraham Lincoln. Yes. Well, we need a little Honest Abe in the media, in big tech, in the government, and so much more. This is a tragedy. This is a tragedy because of the fact that now it's okay. Because so here's a question. As the world's being taught to hate Putin, okay, as they're changing the standards, thank you, Trisha, for joining, as they're changing the standards to hate Putin right now, what stops them from making it Christians in the future? What stops, because there's a hate against conservatives proven in big tech. You can't have an opinion. You would think it was a bunch of school teachers who were gathering around and basically throwing kids in the corner who didn't have the right to speak or even have an opinion. Johnny, you're sitting in the corner, but all I did was ask you a question. But it wasn't the right question, and we don't tolerate that disrespect. But aren't you disrespecting me by telling me that I don't have the right to have an opinion and ask a question? It's not causing dissension. It's just presenting credible questions. Your science or whatever you're teaching is not adding up to the truth. Johnny, go to the principal's office. What? Stop disrupting my class. And see, and that's something that's interesting because as a teacher may be over the class, that they're the steward of the class. See, I think there's a picture that we missed too. Is just like with that teacher to student relationship where the teacher may be the overseer of the class, but it's not the teacher's class, it's the children's class, because the teacher is there for the children to help them learn how to think, not what to think. Just like in our country, our representatives in government are saying they're to be there to basically represent our desires. We, the people, government, constitutional republic. They're representing the people, not themselves. Unfortunately, what we see with politicians and what we see with many teachers is exactly the same thing. Thank you, Grace, for being part of the program. Hence, we have the abominations of the parody from Awaken with JP.
Times threatening them is an advanced form of scientifically analyzing their data. Like, for example, Ralph, do you remember how you were just talking about Dr. Malone? Yes? Well, for doing so, I'm going to kill you and your family. Now, Ralph, do you still believe that Dr. Malone is a valid source of information that you should be listening to? I guess not.
Yes, and that's the way. So if we threaten you, threaten you with sanctions or mandates, expulsion, fines, and so much more, if we take away your livelihood to work and provide for your family, you'll comply. See, we had so much participation in the inauguration of America because of the fact that everybody saw that the science was good. Yeah, the science of threat always works. Most of the times. So yeah, when you actually have a needle gun at the head or neck or arm of people, it's really easy to get them to see. And isn't this what they say in the court of law? What's the term for it? Where they bully and intimidate a witness to basically give a testimony, and they're under duress? Because I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who would probably say to you in the last couple of years that they got jabbed under duress. Yes. But we can't have that discussion because that is going to be censored. The mandates and sanctions that we turn around, and it starts off so sweet in these things called warnings from social media. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't say that. If you do it again, we're going to take everything away from you. You won't be able to broadcast. You won't be able to use our platform anymore if you keep saying those things. Now, mind you, it's interesting because with this idea, I wonder if certain platforms will hold Facebook accountable now, and will those certain platforms allow the audio that comes from Facebook to be on their platforms now that Facebook and Meta and Instagram says it's okay to threaten Vladimir Putin? I wonder if other platforms will allow that data to be played if the verbal threats are made on said platforms in this temporary stay, this executive order that changes standards. Will everyone abide by the new standards of hating Putin? Because this is the science that changes and ebbs and flows according to emotions and not empirical data.
Isn't that just mean? Science! When beginning a scientific study, a scientist should always ask itself, who's funding the study, what do they want to find, and what do they want to hide? And then you go about scientifically creating those results so you can get paid. Now, when doing science, some science could reveal things that you don't want to be correct. Then, in the name of good science, you censor those things. Out of all the...
Yes. Sometimes that censorship may go 55 years. Some of that, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Getting a little bit excited here. Sorry. It's just we're being told that this is good science, where we censor data. 55 years of getting the information. And as more and more information that's coming out that's debunking the science, World War III is among us. As we have high inflations, because everybody is worrying about 9.7%. Everybody's worrying about potentially looking at $7 to $16 a gallon for gas, that they're not paying attention to the new revelations coming out about the science of the last 2 years. They're not looking at this data anymore. As the CDC is reporting issues, showing issues with the science. I'm just going to show you their data. But see, if we're at war, if everybody's worrying about Ukraine, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. And in the doctor's appointment, I was working with a young lady who was helping me. She was one of the workers at this clinic who worked in a NICU. Okay. So there's a picture that's out there. And I've been very skeptical about a lot of the pictures that are being shown on the news about what's happening in Ukraine. Again, listen to the Daily Mojo last week. You'll hear at least 12 stories where a lot of the stuff that was put in the news were video clips from video games and movies. But this is what we're being shown. I showed you pictures of people who sat around and said, yeah, I was there and I was on the ground. And this is exactly what's going on. So I question a lot of that stuff. A lot of people call me insensitive. Do I believe that something is happening in Ukraine? I think that something is happening in the Ukraine. But what we're being led to, we're being misled in many ways. We're being misled. It's interesting as you sit here and we start looking at all the footage of all the areas being destroyed. It's all in the same area. It's the same buildings. It's the same information. It's the same area being bombed over and over and over again. And it's like, are you guys done yet? Oh my goodness. I think I just saw another thing on one of the videos. I'm going to go back through the videos because I think I just saw one of their lies pushed right in front of us. And I'm going to do more research on it. But I believe that I found another one of their lies on here. But as I sat there, now mind you, at my job, I learned to become, I'm first aid certified. I can do CPR. I can do first aid support. If anything is going on, I'm certified. Okay. I remember a woman had fallen. She needed some help. I grabbed my medical kit bag out of the car. And I was applying, help to this woman. And as we were sitting there, my wife was with me because we were out on a date. And we were sitting here and we're trying to help her. In the process of doing this, I've got gauze. I'm cleaning up blood, cleaning up everything. I've got my gloves on. As I'm trying to take care of this woman. And there's gauze, blood, everything like that. And my wife, I believe she has got gloves on, and she's basically cleaning up after me because it was a mess as I'm sitting here trying to take care of this woman. Well, there's this one picture that shows this triage station in this maternity ward or whatever it is. And there are 3 stations in this room. And the 3 stations in the room, there's people who are bloodied up. It was too clean. There was no partition separating the different rooms of people working on the people in the room. It was just a free fall of 3 different stations of people being helped, okay? And I saw one piece of gauze or a Band-Aid on the floor. I'm like, this is not real. This is staged. This is not a real triage. Because if it really was a triage, in ERs, in every place else, when there is blood everywhere, there is blood everywhere. There's blood on the floor. There's blood on the carpet. There's gauze. There's everything you can imagine is thrown on the floor as you're sitting here trying to take care of those critical needs of the individual. You look at this picture, nada. Zilch, nada. No blood. No blood spatter anywhere. Again, and the reason why I can say this with confidence is because I used to work for a medical school. And when I was working for the medical school, 2nd and 3rd year medical students would go into this thing called the Oski Center, where there would be 15 rooms. We'd have professional actors from Indianapolis go into these rooms. There were probably about 12 by 12 at the most. And they would sit there and they would act like they were patients. And the 2nd and 3rd year medical students would come in a simulation of providing care to that patient. And what would happen is there would be a videotaping of the encounter, and the actors would then give their assessment of the temperament of that student. Do they believe that they're ready to function in the real world and have that personal one-on-one care with a human being who needs medical care or medical services? It was an Oski Center. It was a simulation center, a simulation of what would look like in an environment of a medical environment. And that's exactly what a lot of this stuff, again, all I'm saying is, I'm not saying that things aren't happening, but I'm saying look at every picture critically. I found a picture of a soldier. It says they're carrying the baby out of the wreckage. Now, mind you, total devastation behind them, right? Car flipped over. But there's not one stain on the baby. There's not one stain on the soldier. The dog is looking off in the background. And I'm sitting here thinking, baby's too clean. Baby's too clean. If the baby was pulled out of wreckage, if I'm bringing a child out of a wreckage, there's going to be some semblance of dirt, whatever, on there. Nothing to be seen. Now, this was something I had watched like a week ago, right? And in the middle of looking at this, and I'm showing it for the 5th time to somebody, I basically look something said, look in the top left corner of that picture. In the top left corner of the picture, there was a tree that was standing next to a bed of water. And you would figure when you're looking in the tree at the reflection, you would see one tree coming out of the water. You would see one trunk coming out of the water. No, there are 5. 5 trees going. So it was photoshopped. Even the nurse said it was photoshopped. The nurse, and when she looked at even the previous picture in the makeshift emergency room, she's like, I've worked in the NICU, and it still is messy. This is too clean. This is all staged. This is the science of manipulation happening right now. Again, I'm not saying that things aren't happening in Russia, but we spent the last 2 years being told, follow the science. The science that doesn't add up. And now we're finding out it wasn't as true as it needed to be.
In science, biology, chemistry, astronomy, censorship is the most widely used one today. Now, what is the most common factor that makes science change? Yes. Increased atmospheric pressure? No. Low numbers at the polls? Yes, exactly. When elections are coming up and polls are down, the science completely changes. Physics completely go out the window and the law of gravity no longer exists, which isn't surprising because gravity is just a social construct. Now, this is the science. Now,
and when you watch this video, when he said this is the science, he was holding up a cardboard of Fauci. He was holding up a cardboard of Fauci.
Yes, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go take a pregnancy test because I'm 32 years late getting my period. I hope this is the time. Real quick.
Yeah. JP. Holy moly guacamole. This is where we are. The science. You don't believe me? Let's go into a little bit more science. Here you go. I'm putting this in the timeline on Facebook.com for this broadcast. I put it in the timeline. I shared it on my thing here last week, or no, yesterday, I believe it was. So let's look at this. Look, this very interesting article here. This is a report from the CDC. This is on the Daily Mail. Latest flu vaccine was ineffective during the 2021-2022 season and was deemed a quote-unquote poor match to the strain, CDC report finds. The shot only reduced infection levels by 16%, which the agency considers insignificant. How do you consider this insignificant? While the vaccine failed to provide immunity against infections, it did prevent severe symptoms. This is the same thing we heard about the science for the last 2 years. I have friends who decided under duress to follow the science and still ended up with severe conditions like those who didn't follow the science in their own home. But we're told it's going to reduce. We're told the science of all these different things that we're told was going to happen. And this is the thing about it. It's stuff like this. It's been known, it has been fact that for the longest time, for the highest rate or the average rate of the effectiveness or efficacy of the flu, the scientific fact, this is from the numbers that they have shared, has been 40 to 60% effective. See, this is the reason why they're getting rid of F's in school, because before, anything less than a 65 was considered a failing grade. I believe it was 65 and less was considered a failing grade. But we're operating on science that's been failing consistently for decades. But we're the ones who are idiots. We're the ones who are foolish. We're the ones who are dumb because we don't want to follow this. Your reports are showing the ineffectiveness of your solutions. But if we share that data, we're censored. If we share this information, we're censored. If we share your truth, we're censored. Your truth that contradicts your other truth. See, that's the thing about when people say that the Bible contradicts itself, show me. Show me in the Word of God where it's contradicting itself. Please. Oh, no, I heard about it. No. Show me. Show me where God's Word is contradicting itself. You'll see the consistent theme from Genesis to Revelation. God is good. We are not. He redeemed us because we couldn't. Apart from Him, we couldn't be reconciled back to God. But you can't reconcile the science, quote unquote, that has been completely obliterated, all standards of common sense thrown out the door. And Awaken with JP sounds more intelligent than what we've been hearing for the last 2 years. Folks, this is a sad day that we are in our world. And you know, it was one of the things, another interesting thing that happened in this. See, because everything we're being told right now is focused on Russia, Ukraine, right? That we're being told that this is what matters most as we look at what's important in life. But something happened in the last 2 years. And I dare say it's with family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, where we were told to operate in fear. And in fear, we said things about our neighbors and the people who don't agree with the science. We became very condescending against the people who didn't agree with the science. We just questioned the data that's always been making us question things for so long. And now when you continue to drop standards for political seasons to avoid a shellacking, change standards. What changed to basically say masks can come off? Show me the science. Show me the science. I've never heard anyone say, speaking of herd immunity. We never heard those numbers. We were never given those numbers of herd immunity. And what would Fauci refuse to answer? What was it? Was it Ted Cruz or was it Thomas Massey or was it whoever was asking him? Give us the numbers. Let us know what is the official number for herd immunity. We never heard the number. But we're supposed to follow the science. Where did COVID go? Wall-to-wall news for 18 months. There's something out there now. Oh, yeah, the world population may reach 18 million who are killed by COVID. Well, you're not reporting the information wall-to-wall like you were before about how many people are dying. So that's just a number you're throwing out there with no scientific evidence to support it. Oh, wait. Didn't Fauci say initially that near 2.5 million people would have died because of COVID, or we're going to die. That's what his numbers were 2 years ago. We didn't even break 400,000 before the end of the year. He was off by 2.1 million people. The person supporting the science. When you have mandates and sanctions, you control speech, you control everything. And look what's happening right now. Look what's happening right now. I'm your host, Watson, preaching for Battle for Freedom, Mojo Pirate Radio. Brad Stacks and Daily Mojo's up next. And I'm out.